bring the meeting of the Manchester Board of Selectmen together. Tonight is our budget discussion, to look at the final numbers of the budget and to walk through the documents that Greg has provided with us and to us, and to vote that at the end of this meeting. So Greg, all yours.
So I think we best start with the sheet that has FY 2020 budget changes. So these are the various changes that have occurred since you've seen the preliminary budget. So when I presented the preliminary budget in December, you can walk through the changes that have come about for discussions with the Finance Committee and other changes that have come across the deck based on various updates from organizations, et cetera. So just starting from the top, on the Selectmen's salary line, we swapped out. So we had added additional dollars in the Treasurer's Department and the Selectmen's Department. But we basically have flip-flopped those two. So it's not an increase in total dollars for this change, but you can see the 18,000 added in the Selectmen's and 18,000 taken away in the Treasurer's. And that's based on the concept of a community engagement and communication coordinator being housed out of the Selectmen's office rather than additional staffing in the Treasurer's office. So that takes care of those two there. There's a small increase for the assessors concerning additional mapping. It relates to the GIS mapping that we have. And you can see these explanations on the backside, but this print was so small to have it fit on one page that it wasn't readable. So, but I can walk through as we go through. The fourth line here is in the town clerk salaries. Again, this isn't new money. This is consolidating dollars. So instead of having assistant town clerk get paid out of the appeals board salary and the HCC salaries, we've moved those most of those dollars into the town clerk salary. So she's basically working full-time in the clerk's office and doing the work for the two appeal boards during the day and then having a stipend for minute taking at night. So we keep a small amount in those two boards, HDC and appeals, for the minute taking at night. But the bulk of the work is moved during the day and staffing in the town clerk's office. Questions?
Actually, I had a question back on the GIS stuff.
Yes.
What errors will we not have after this set of purchases that we might not have?
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Let me get an updated list of what we do have and what additional layers still are out there to be added. Let me ask Jimmy that question. So then we had a reduction in the pension. I think I mentioned that perhaps a little earlier. So roughly a $20,000 savings there. And we also were able to reduce the amount of money for the health insurance for staff. That's a $50,000 savings there.
Why is the group health insurance number so precisely round?
It's rounded. It's not a precise number. There's a lot of variability in terms of family versus single, in terms of employees opting out because perhaps their spouse has a deal that they prefer. It does fluctuate.
So it's a little conservative.
It is conservative, yeah. There's dollars there in case we get more people enrolling than we anticipated. But yes, it is a rounded up number. Slight reduction in the animal control expenses. We're just looking over past experience. We're not spending as much on some of the expense lines. HDC, we talked about the town clerk salary, talked about that earlier. That's that reduction there rolled up into that dollar for the town clerk. DPW sanitation. So the pay-as-you-throw bag expense, we're selling more bags.
Say it again.
We're selling more bags.
Oh.
So that means we need to buy more bags,
Mhm.
which is why this number has increased. So, I think we had a, I think we had a backlog of bags that we had purchased over the last few years, and we've run through that.
I'd be curious to know, if there was a backlog, just kind of if that's changing with, the differing recycling, and composting. It would be interesting to kind of get some information on that.
Just in terms of numbers and trends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We are, just as a quick aside, we're interviewing and voting on fourth, correct? Our interview
Yes,
process.
there are quite a few.
Why are we on an odd cycle with them? It was a strange time to go to do things.
Well, they'll come in May with everybody else, but we're starting, as I understand it, we're starting interviews and stuff, but they will start.
You start the term come May.
Yeah. Because we're trying, the thing with the, at least this is what I thought we were doing, with the board training.
Mhm.
Getting everybody interviewed and ready to go, so we're not interviewing people and trying people in June and July to get the bulk of people on
Okay.
these committees and appointees done before May first.
And trained.
And then get them the handbooks ready, they get sworn in May, right after the election, they go to class, and it goes on cycle.
Yep. I like that.
I would have preferred to split them.
Yeah, that's a lot.
How many?
7.
We can still try to do that.
I don't know how to do it. Just, with everything else that's going on, June meeting, so, anyway, sorry for the aside, go ahead, Greg.
So then that brings us to the school budget. Again, there's that, well, there was a small decrease just because we had, the estimated number was a bit higher. And then there was the reduction with their decision to use some of the fund balance. And then the debt service number, obviously that took a significant jump because of the new school.
Yep.
So that was not in the original preliminary budget. And so obviously that's can be funded primarily through the new debt exclusion. We've had an increase in the number of students enrolled at the vocational school. So we're up to 9 students enrolled, up from 5. So that is why we have that $50,000 increase. And then we get to capital. So for capital, deletion of this, an open space plan revision, something that is not quite ready to do. We've got a couple more years on that.
What is that for specifically, though, what plan?
It's called the Open Space and Recreation Plan,
Right.
and it should be updated on a 7-year cycle.
Oh. Thank you.
So is the open space committee aware that we're taking the budget out for that this year?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
But not going to be welcome. Short. So.
Right. I'll double check that, but that's my understanding that they were on board with delaying that a year.
Yeah.
I will make sure that that's the case. So in the assessor's office, the biggest item here is the permitting software. So our current software package is in-house. They're going 100%, they're no longer supporting that, they're going to a cloud-based model. So there's some upgrades that we pay for that cloud-based model. And
Why are they going to a cloud-based model
why are they?
as opposed
Most-
to what we've already got?
So it's an improvement over the current program that we have, and they're not offering it as
The vendor,
the vendor.
the vendor's not.
So
Oh,
we're-
all right.
we're only going to a cloud-based service. We're seeing that across the board for a lot of, most of the software.
Yeah. Thank you.
And excuse me, that's a one-time,
Yes, yes.
And there's no choice on that.
right.
Not if we want to stay with that software.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
When
we-
was the last time we were charged a, large assessment by them? Have we been? Is this-
Well, I think we avoided it actually the first time around when we first got it, because we were a beta project for them initially.
Oh, right.
So that was 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
So we've done fairly well to avoid a large capital cost. A slight increase to the cruiser motorcycle dollars. I'm actually hoping that we would use some grant funds for that difference. That differential is for having the new cruisers be a plug-in hybrid. So the mileage will be greatly increased, and
Nice.
we'll more than save that money
Yeah, exactly.
in gas.
Good. Big crowd tonight.
So, two things. One, I think we'll be able to use some grant monies for this, some green communities grant money, with any luck, and we'll more than make up for that gasoline savings over the life of the vehicle.
Mhm.
So then for the harbor dredging phase 2, we just had an error in the number that we had put in originally. So to continue with the engineering phase of the second phase of dredging, we need a total of $80,000 to move forward with that.
And that's all coming out of waterways fees.
That's for the waterway fees, yes. Yeah, it is. That's 100% from the waterway fees.
So that's the initial engineering, and then after that, they were starting with the permitting phases, which will take us a couple of years to work through.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, exactly right. So the next ones are related to trying to be more aggressive with the water pipes in the eastern part of town. So to pay for this, we are assuming that you're comfortable with taking, instead of using a general fund balance for the sewer upgrades and pipes, we would use sewer fund balance, and we would tap the water fund balance as well, 350,000 water fund balance, plus another 500,000 in general fund balance.
Why was,
Added,
oh,
added,
sorry.
added to what we already had, and that gets us that additional 1.13.
Why was there pushback from the FinCom?
So there's concern about not following the original 5-year plan, capital plan.
Well, we've had a little bit of a different situation, haven't
Well,
we?
they were, so they said, is this overreacting? Is the essential
Mm.
response? They were concerned that if,
Did they all feel that way, or was it sort of a mix?
differing degrees.
Yeah. Okay.
Was their recommendation not to?
They didn't finalize it. They are going to take it up again tomorrow night. So part of their questioning is, will we see a reduction then in a few years out, because we've accelerated? So we can, or you could just bring everything closer. Do everything more quickly.
And again, the work that we're gonna be adding on is where?
So this would specifically be a new pipe on Magnolia Avenue and a new pipe on Raymond, and then relining, depending how far, and also a new pipe on Ocean Street, completing the Ocean Street Even though there's not a tremendous amount of houses served there, it's an important loop to maintain. It gives that redundancy. So those three sections of pipe get replaced, and then some additional pipe relining, either along Summer or one of the other side streets, University Lane or Plum.
So the Summer Street line, which feeds to Magnolia and the Raymond line, so is that have sufficient volume to really serve the new pipe that we're gonna be putting in, or is it just gonna be us putting in that new pipe and then eventually we'll get the work done on Summer line?
So we want Tech wants to do a little more testing. He thinks that the Summer Street line is big enough now to supply those new pipes, and that we'll see much enhanced flow without having to reline the Summer Street. Eventually, we will reline Summer Street, though. He thinks that's a phase 2 effort.
Part of the objective of this is to improve water flow for fire.
Yes, but eventually these pipes need to be replaced regardless.
Yeah.
For domestic use. These are very old pipes with a lot of tuberculation.
And as I understood it, and maybe I'm wrong, were these part of the ones originally thought of in the cadence that we were looking at over time? In other words, we're just moving this, or we putting these ahead of other projects that we have cited? So we've done fine.
No, we're not skipping over others. We're just doing these sooner than originally scheduled.
So we're not jumping just to deal with that. These were planned
Over the next couple,
over this
3 or 4
cadence.
years.
Right, okay.
So this
That was fine.
this gets it done in 2 rather than 3 or 5. Something like that.
I would be interested in understanding. And what's the next phase? Where are we looking at?
After this,
After this.
so then it's to the other section of town that also have older pipes, but not as bad. Okay, so this is definitely the worst section of town. The only other caveat is that there's still some exploration of the option of adding 10,000 gallons, to get 10,000 gallon storage tanks
What?
to strategically placed as a source of water for firefighting purposes.
And what is the surf development? How's that going to impact the water at that end of the line? Because that's supposed to be a good sized development, right?
It's 8 units. Are they Manchester or Gloucester Water? I know
It's
they're.
both. It's I know it's a joint kind of,
Yeah,
Really?
there's units in
I
both.
think,
yeah.
I think they're coming off of. I think it's Gloucester
I
Water.
think the
That's
water's
what I
off.
thought I'd recalled, but,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll
I
double
was
check
just
that.
curious if that's gonna be the new end of the line
I
and.
know the main curb cut is Gloucester, so I know that's.
I would just, as a cautionary point with this, as we go to town meeting, is prepare some good remarks around framing up why we're doing this.
Why we're adding it.
And the rationale that, is because we're just moving it up, it's something that needs to happen.
Right.
I think we're being smart because we do have a large amount of reserve funds and we need to move on stuff. It's not gonna spend money, but I think, so, just why it's a priority.
Yeah.
And it's nicer to be able to do it before we have an emergency situation where a line collapses or something. It's, we have the option of doing it. Right.
Yeah, so Chuck was pleasantly surprised that the drawdown of the fire didn't actually cause a collapse of the pipe. Because when you suck that much water
Oh,
out,
boy.
you create a vacuum, basically.
Yeah.
I think what saved us is that the lines are so old that there's enough air infiltration
Right.
that it didn't create that
Didn't cause
vacuum.
that.
Yeah.
There's a benefit there.
Right. Silver lining. So, and then the numbers for the sewer are the same, but we're tapping into the sewer reserve to help, and that frees up money to go towards that larger number for water. And then 2 additional lines, the 45,000 for electronic voting for potential
Mhm.
purchase. Again, we'll continue to pursue a shared arrangement. But if that doesn't come to fruition, then we would have the dollars available to buy the necessary units on our own. And then the $10,000 towards the 375 renovation. So that's a summary of all the changes that have been made over the last 2 months here. The budget's been worked out. So in terms of bottom line, it really hasn't changed except for the capital. Most of the operating budgets, obviously except for the debt service school, but all those other ones basically balance out. Actually, a little to the good, about $45,000 to the good there, overall.
And the 45,000 for the electronic voting, that's, just a one-time. And
That's a one-time.
right, so maybe,
Yeah, and it actually saves us money based on what we've been spending for each session.
yeah.
Yeah, we spent more than that over the last 2.5 years on the rental.
Wow.
So I think this is a good move. Even if we don't share it, I think it's worth doing. So you see,
Do you want a copy of what we're looking at? I just have an extra. There's some right here. It just occurred to me that
Yeah.
you're so nice to come, it would be nice to be able to look at something.
To read along.
Oh,
New Sandy Adele. Instead of new Adele. Yeah, Sandy Adele. And Jeff.
so the second sheet then is simply the education dollars summarized, or revised, and also then just the straight listing of all those capital items. So nothing new there, just in a different format than what you saw in the sheet we just reviewed. And then finally, the larger document then just lists all the departments with all the numbers as modified. So it contains the numbers that were in the original preliminary that didn't change, as well as the new numbers that you have. So that's basically Article 4 in your hands, the town meeting.
One comment on the regional school district, again, I go back to the change of the 70,000, framing up comments around that. Because that question will be raised, and I think we need to be smart about how we answer that. The 70,000 differential, why the school reduction, reduction. So just being prepared for comments around that and questions. I think that's important.
And you'll
So it's
be-
really a 65.
Yeah.
In terms of, there's that extra 5,000 is because our original estimate was a little high.
I got it, okay, that makes me feel better. Okay,
So
we'll
who
get to
will
that.
be answering those then?
Well, we'll get to that, but I think I just want to be prepared for.
Mhm.
The school will take the lead, so you may,
Yeah. But as we talk about our budget, if there's anything that we should have. Okay. All right.
so unless you have other questions, it would be appropriate to, using the master sheet there, the Article 4 numbers, to make a motion to approve.
I do have a
that
few
proposed budget.
questions.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I do. And this, of course, goes to planning board, but, with that, there were a couple of things I had on that, and I noticed that from 2017 budgeted to the 2019 budgeted, and then the requested for 2020, it's almost a 50% increase in salaries. And I was just curious what that, to
So
what
what
that would
would-
be attributed.
What page are you
I'm on
looking
page B2 under general government. B2.
So the greater detail is found on B31.
Yes, and that's. Yep,
So what we've done since 17 is we've added in the 10 hours a week from the Affordable Housing Trust as an income stream. So Sue is giving up to 10 hours a week to support the work of the Affordable Housing Trust.
and
And that's paid for
By
from the trust funds.
so under the planning board.
Correct. Just because that's where we pay Sue.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, we've added a few more hours to Sue's non-affordable housing time.
So with the Affordable Trust, so how many hours is she giving them?
Up to 10.
Up to 10, thank you. So that's the 35,000 difference?
Well, that and boosting her hours. So when a couple of years ago, she was at, I have to double check my notes, but I want to say low 20s, like 22 hours a week.
So,
And now she's up to 30 hours a week.
okay.
So those two changes is what explains that increase.
Okay, and then there was, I'm just, with the budget going forward, what amount of that budget is for, because I don't see it in here, for the planning board to use for, it says professional services, but in the past, and the ZBA need to be able to access town council or, like in the past, they talked to John Witten, who had helped craft the bylaws. So,
Right. So we've been paying legal services out of the general legal line.
okay.
So for ZBA appeals or planning board needs legal counsel on an application, we're trying to do better about making sure that the applicants pay for that if it's applicant related, but sometimes you can't do that. So we
Right,
do tap into that general legal account. And then the capital budget has the monies for the recodification and sort of
mhm,
front to back review of the zoning bylaw. That's in capital. And then this smaller line, this $6,000, $6,500
right.
would be the sort of miscellaneous professional services.
So if a board, whether it's zoning board or planning board, just because I used to be able to email whenever I needed to, and again, primarily John Witten, since he's the one who helped craft. How do they do it now? Because, and if they don't have, because in the past, I know they had the budget that was for their access.
So that would be a discussion that, if this was not enough to do that, that's 6,500, then it would be a discussion between me and Sue and the planning board.
Okay.
To tap into that we have a legal service / professional services general account.
I was just looking at the ZBA also and just how, okay, good, thank you.
So we have talked about, maybe dividing up that legal services line and divide it up into the different main users. I would say the
Yeah.
ZBA is probably besides general services,
All right.
which you and I use, the ZBA is probably the next biggest one.
Hadn't it been before?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't it before? Because, I mean,
It wasn't when I first came here, so I don't know prior to
Okay.
that.
all right.
Did you have it before, do you remember?
We had a specific, budget that we used.
That was more than this.
Yeah, we had a little bit, it seemed like we had a little bit more of a budget. And somebody was asking me because they said they didn't have access to a budget. One of the planning board members said that they didn't know where the budget had gone. especially in terms of legal counsel.
So it's cared for, it's just under general legal. Okay, well, that's a good thing to think about
Alright.
next year, too. If
Right.
we want to refine as a request to break some of that out, that's
Right,
probably
we
doable.
could do
I
that.
think at this point, it's a little late,
Right,
but we can
right.
certainly look at it for next year. That's important.
So the capital item that we have for zoning bylaw rewrite, ultimately is it the planning board that will be driving that process, or will it be?
Yes, in consultation with the consultant.
And they're aware that we have $50,000 in the budget this year in the capital line for funding.
Yes, yeah.
Vicki, did you get all your questions answered?
Yes, is the short answer.
Unless something else comes up, right? Okay. Muffin, do you have any? I'm good. Oh, my question is, because of the, I don't wanna put the cart before the horse, if the finance committee is talking about the water number tomorrow, and coming back with a recommendation. I just feel like if we vote that tonight, we're sort of upending their ability to provide counsel and guidance on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if we just held that line item until Monday,
Mm-hmm.
for a chance for them to be able to do it. So I'm fine going ahead. I just don't wanna upset the process.
And I think pointed to that point, is there anything else, Greg, that they're hedging on?
No, they've completed everything. They haven't voted on the OPEB number, but they will, no doubt. And there was one other number for tomorrow night that I'm forgetting. Oh, stabilization. I think stabilization was the other one.
What's the OPEB number increase? 4%?
Yes. We've been doing 100,000. We don't,
Are you anticipating that to remain the same?
yeah, I actually anticipate it going away.
Well, right.
We don't need to keep doing that, but,
Have they been having those discussions?
that hasn't come up. They come up tomorrow night.
Right.
Is that in here?
That's baked in here.
It is. All right, so I would say, a motion to accept the budget as it stands, excluding the schools, because of what that has to recuse yourself,
Library.
library.
My wife works there part-time.
Uh-oh.
I'm trying to think, when
Yes.
did you go start working at the library? Okay, the library, and, the water, the
Yep, water capital.
Water capital. And do you wanna hold the stabilization too, just in case? Is that the only other one?
Sorry.
I'd probably go ahead and do it, and if there's,
If
you
there's a
need to
change, we
revisit
can
it.
do it, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal. All right, so I'll take a motion for this with the exclusion of those three, then we can.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good, thank you. Opposed, good. Okay, now let's take a vote on the school number. I have a motion for that.
Where is the school number?
So is that the one for,
On the
that's
top of
for
this
the
one.
17,815,856?
Well, so are we taking up the, do you wanna do the debt separately versus the school?
Yeah, typically we do those, we have those three separate numbers. You have the VOTEC number, the operating budget, and the debt number.
Yeah. All right, so,
All right. I'll move that we approve the North Shore Agriculture and Technical School budget in the amount of $152,731.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bill, I can vote that one.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll move that we approve the Manchester Essex Regional School District assessment at $14,668,257.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll move that we approve the Manchester Essex Regional School Debt assessment in the amount of $2,994,868.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so I think
That's
we're where we
a
need to
great place to be.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, we will get information from the FinCom, it'll be on our agenda Monday,
Yes.
and we can, get.
So
that
on
done.
Monday, we'll have the articles.
I was
Oh.
gonna say we didn't do
Oops.
that, so I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
so.
you're right.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, good catch.
All right, can you make a motion on the library, please?
Okay, find the number. I will make a motion to approve $488,810 for the library.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain for, sure. Okay, thank you, Kim. Keeping us on track.
Yes.
Um,
So on Monday, we'll finalize the capital reporter. We'll have the warrant articles laid out. So the only question that's come up on the, for additional article, and I think I would recommend holding off, but I'll give you the option, since you're on. It concerns the, compost facility at the landfill. So I think as you know, we're going to pretty significant costs over
Mhm.
this. At least one vendor is very interested in entering into a long-term lease, up to a 20-year lease.
Wow.
And would put in significant capital monies of their own to make up that difference, to make the project still go forward. So that's worth further exploration.
Mhm.
For you to enter into that kind of a lease, you need authorization from the voters.
and would we have any of that vetted out before? It's a very.
That's the challenge.
I'm worried.
Could you say that again?
Wait, I said, would we have any of that vetted before town meeting, which is a month away? And I'm always worried about pushing things under, as we
Mhm.
get into this, I prefer to push that to a fall.
Yep.
Meeting,
Right.
so that if we have.
What does that
But-
do to the project?
That's the challenge. So they, obviously, if things were to come together, so we could do a special meeting, in June or July, if the cards were to align and you'd like to deal with moving forward. Or you could put it on for this town meeting and pass over it if you didn't feel like the information, there was enough information. Or you wait until the fall.
What if,
So-
I'm sorry.
Is this a vendor that we know, or if we enter into an agreement like this, does this affect our existing agreement in the Black Earth?
So at this point, the one main vendor who's interested is Black Earth. But if we're going out to a lease, we would put it out there as an RFP. I don't know if we would get any other bids, but we would go through that process.
Oh, I
because
see.
we're
So
required
this is
to-
their solution to the problem.
I'm sorry?
This is their solution to the problem, to obtain a long-term lease. Yeah.
Is this anything that can be covered in a shared service arrangement?
I think that's
Well, it would,
It's a good, because I know Wenham uses
part of the
them.
whole point, was this was a regional.
right.
So, but I'm saying from a cost structure
Mhm.
and a
It's a good idea.
So as part of the, again, it's very preliminary, we have talked about, they would need to pay us more money as their business grows and becomes successful as part of the lease agreement. So we would get so much per ton of finished compost is what they propose.
So that's how it works. It's not the money that we're expending from our budget that we could share with other towns. It's more it comes back that mechanism.
I thought also that there was some discussion about, as part of the compensation to us, is we had a reduced or preferred rate on.
Correct. That is another option to try to try to negotiate with an agreement.
I love this idea, and I would like to see it
Yeah.
carried through. I just think we would be pushing too hard to try to get
It's a
something
push.
people.
There's no
And I would
question.
prefer to do it right and do a special if we have to, or
Mhm.
do it in the fall.
Fall.
Is there, we end up with pushing some time frames that are
Yeah.
difficult for them, if we push into the fall for,
So potentially, it depends on what the state said. We need an extension from the state
on the regional.
on the grant
Oh,
money.
got it, okay.
What's the time frame on that?
And I'm forgetting that detail as I sit right here.
Can we talk about this Monday?
Yes, we
With
can.
Martin?
Yeah,
I'd love
let me
to
get more
that.
information,
Yeah.
because Chuck was gonna have that, he's not gonna be back yet. Anyway, let me pull together a few more details so that we can have a more intelligent conversation.
The other question I have on the articles, the straw paper one, will we have information on Monday on the impact and the information about what the restaurants and the people that we're asking to change the impact of their business? In other words, are they willing to take this on? I think that was one of the questions we had early on, that if we legislate this,
Yeah.
Is it
Gary
something they
indicated
can
they were,
I was
You know.
gonna say, I think Gary Gilbert indicated that he'd been to,
right, most,
most of them, if not all, and that several were already
mhm.
shifting or had shifted. So, but I think the question was raised about Crosby's
yeah.
and
Mhm.
the deeper impact at Crosby's and how they position themselves to like 30 days, 60 days, 90,
Mhm.
whatever. I
think
think
we
was
need-
our last question for him when he was
Yeah.
here the last time.
so if that's part of our warrant, even though it's a citizen petition, I still think the onus would be on us to have that conversation.
What's the date by which we have to make our yeas and nays on the articles?
Well, to get it in the booklet, we need that next week.
Well, I think yes, I agree with you, but I believe because it is a citizen petition, the onus is on the petitioner
Yeah.
to present that kind of information. And based on deadlines, so next Monday, something from Crosby's that they understand or aware, or whatever, of this article. I think similar to the way the bag one was done, that
Mhm.
they came to one of the public sessions, but that they are aware.
It'd be
that
nice to
This is
have,
being proposed and that what the timeline is from them.
it'd be nice to have, I think, an email or something, just
That's what I'm
a
saying.
paper trail
I think,
as well.
I think that onus is on the petitioner. Because we've already talked about
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, and I think that's fair in that I wanna try to give it as much advance notice. I don't wanna say,
Well, that's it.
Monday night, we're gonna vote this, and by the way, did you do that? So
Mhm.
we can get to him sooner than later. I
Yep.
don't want any surprises.
Yeah.
And I think the others are, I don't know what more about their phone.
Mhm.
Right, so we just have that, the fluoride and the black, and do we decide to do the room tax?
No, we decided to
Okay,
put
thank
that.
Yeah, you said you wanted to do it.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
The
agree.
fluoride one, the petition, the request is for, it's a non-binding,
Correct.
so non-binding means non-binding?
It does.
Okay.
It does. In order for you to reverse the decision to add fluoride, it takes voter approval to authorize you to seek a special act.
Right,
So
but a non-binding vote doesn't.
it doesn't do that.
Well, technically, I think technically it doesn't require us to get voter approval to seek the special act, but it was preferred that we do so.
Well, I thought it did because
I think any special
it
act
was a
requires.
voter approval that
That triggered it
sought,
in the
that
first place.
triggered the act
That's
in
right.
the
I wasn't
first
sure that we'd
place.
actually,
We should have
Well,
clarification.
We could have turned it over by doing that special act or asking for it and not having to go to town meeting, but we said that we wouldn't do that.
right,
Right.
we elected.
That's
We
what it
elected not to do that.
So I guess where I keep going back in this particular non-binding question is,
What do we do with
Does
that?
it need our opinion?
Right,
You can,
I'm just,
you can say no opinion.
I know it's
That's always your prerogative.
talk about it Monday, but.
or should we though? I mean,
I don't know.
Well, I think that's part of what Monday's.
Yeah.
okay,
But it's a good. food for
Or we
thought.
can also recommend the opinion of like the Board of Health.
All right,
There's one other article that you'll see, and I don't know if we've talked much about it. But originally voters had approved the 300,000 for the LED conversion, the
Mhm.
streetlight conversion. And so most of that conversion has been paid for through grant money. So 275,000 of the 300 is available for repurposing. And so what the proposal is to repurpose that 275 towards the cost of a new HVAC system for this building. So it would,
is that in here?
That's a separate article.
that's a separate article.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Yes,
Yes,
that's a
so
separate
maybe it's
article.
All right.
So it would be combined with some dollars that we already have in capital from previous years to do renovations to this building. It would be a new heat pump system, and you would have fresh air and air conditioned air and heated air in the building, and do away with these electric
and
baseboards.
how much is that?
All told, it could be as high as 450-ish thousand. And we get, I think we have about $75,000 in rebates and grant money for that.
So is that under, I'm sorry, where under the capital is that?
You don't see it in this listing because it's old money. But you'll see it as an article after the
Oh,
capital.
I see, it's not an additional appropriation.
It's a repurposing of an old appropriation.
So
Yeah, we have,
Yeah.
we've done that.
is that, I'm just, we have water that comes up here, so where would all the equipment be housed? I mean, stuff's in there right now, isn't it?
Well, it would be up elevated on stands. The heat pumps would be up on the stands a couple feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you said 275,000, the entire project was gonna be in the realm of 400. You thought,
450-ish.
so where's the other money coming from?
So there's
75.
some old capital money, about 180 in old capital money.
Old capital, which old?
I mean, it's capital money that has been appropriated for renovations to this building.
Okay.
Has never been
That
used.
hasn't been used.
Right. Yeah, this goes back to previous appropriations, which many of them haven't been.
Trying to clean them up now.
So we should be really specific about what that is.
Mhm.
Do we have a lot of that? Appropriations that.
Not a lot. We have some capital. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
it
we
lies.
should,
We have more with CP money.
yeah,
Some old projects that just haven't moved, and now they've been slowly,
driven,
bringing those back into the general pot. And
TV projects are like the railing on
yeah, so that's an example.
Maybe the CP money to take that down.
yeah, where's the CP?
The CPA article.
Yeah, so we'll have that for
Monday,
Monday.
okay.
All right, so Monday, I just wanna make
That'll be
sure.
part of the article.
Okay.
The only change, you've gone over that.
Yeah,
Finance
we've
committee.
seen the list.
You've seen the list,
Yeah, you
right?
sent it to us.
So the only change is, to the list that you've seen is the Masco parking lot has gone from 50 to 80,000.
Yes, we saw that. I saw that. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about those.
Everything else is as it was proposed.
Okay. All right. So I think that covers everything for the budget, so we'll do that on Monday. The other request I would have, if we can maybe split those interviews.
Right.
I'd love to do that. I don't know if we want to do 7 not to do 7 interviews in one night for the sustainability committee, if we can split that. Because we also have on our agenda the
Have the Complete Streets
Complete
project. as well.
Streets project.
Mhm.
And you went to that this morning.
Did.
And that was, you were
Pretty
both
interesting.
there? Yeah.
You want summary right
I
now?
would love to hear that.
So I thought the commentary for the public was actually pretty thoughtful. It was based. Some of it was a little bit based on feeling, but most of it was based on observation and some pretty good opinion about parking, about some about traffic flow, and a bit about culture. So we've seen that there is a collection of people who don't like bump outs. There are a lot of people who just really, really don't like bump outs, and would prefer to see crosswalks addressed in some other way to improve their safety. There's been suggestions ranging from different types of paint to different types of substrate, such as brick, or just please go back and look at it to see if you can address it without bump outs. Lot of pushback. There was some discussion by the DIP about the potential of adding potential new parking in front of the library where the chestnut tree was, if you configure that sidewalk, and also the possibility of taking the name's gone, the street right next to the library. Chapel.
Oh, the church.
And making it one way, the other way. And as a result, doing two things, adding a couple of new parking spaces there and also reducing some of the
Conflicts, turning
conflicts on the intersection. So
How so one way though? I mean,
it, switch it the other way so that it goes in.
just in only, off of,
where's the out?
The out is
out
right
is over here.
It's the second one. So you're just reversing it.
Oh, all right, sorry, I was thinking way over by the church, okay. The other,
fair bit of concern about that corner on the where there's the catch basin that everybody keeps rolling over, and they'd really like the town to take a look at the traffic flow and come up with something that's a resolution to the traffic flow. The way trucks continually end up hammering that corner. They feel like reducing the width of streets is a challenge it's already a challenge for trucks, and they don't want to delivery vehicles, and they don't want to increase that challenge. On the DIP side, several members of the DIP were very much opposed to the configuration proposed by VHB. They didn't like it. They thought it needed additional thought. And they didn't think that we should be investing money into it in its current configuration. They thought it needed to be rethought. They still very much want to deal with those intersections, but they think this particular solution is not the way. In fact, they voted that we should not take on those two. Initially, they were talking about a blanket vote against all of them, but they looked a little bit more closely at Beach Street and at the Washington D.C. Street, and they agree that those two look like they're worthwhile doing in their current incarnations, according to the VHB designs. So that's the summary that came out of that group. There's probably 15 people from the public, like the most I've ever seen in one of these meetings. And in general, it was a very positive and helpful conversation.
I do think we need to encourage the DIP to spend that time.
That comment was made this morning. That this is not an easy time for business owners to attend.
So I think just in terms of framing this up for Monday, I think having that feedback was very helpful, so we will certainly talk and hear about that. But to go back to our process, what we agreed to in our last meeting is that Chuck would go out to bid for the different pieces that, the 4 pieces, we would look at that. Once those bids came in, garner the input from the DIP as well as any other
Mhm.
people, and that we will look at all of that once we have the numbers in place and make a decision. So Monday is a public forum, informational session, talking through, summarizing where we are. We're not making decisions on Monday because we still have to get the rest of the facts. So that's sort of the plan for that piece of it.
And Eli explained that this morning.
Great. Okay. The last thing I just want to say, and this is something I go back to, what are lessons learned? What are things that we can do better? One of the things that came up here, and we've run across this with Ocean Street, we've run across it with this one, not so much on the Sawmill, waterway over there, the Central Dam. But what if we, as a thought process, is suggest that our owners of the town, that do work in town, in this case DPW, they have their guidance from the DIP and the bike and pedestrian and all of that. What if we create in a specific area an impact working group? In other words, folks that live in the area that are directly impacted, do not change any of the public domain and the public hearings, but it gives these folks a chance to come in at an earlier stage. And so, for example, this complete street thing, adding that extra component, similar to what happened this morning, but doing it earlier in the process. So any large group that we have when we're looking at projects and grants and things like that, we have an impact working group of those that are almost like the abutters or the people that have an interest in it, but also expand that to obviously keeping the full public involved because everybody's got to. So,
Yeah.
but just a way to allow that conversation to happen, and I would love that to be like a working session. So it's not just come to a meeting and hear what we're doing, but rather let's hear your ideas and come up with some good things. Come up from that.
That's a great idea, Susan. That's really nice.
Just a thought. So that's another thing I just want to make sure that we add to the mix.
I think doing something like that would create more support for the different projects that the towns needs to undertake. And more support for the different departments that are working as hard as they are. Like in this particular case, DPW, to get some of these things done.
Well, we keep trying to crack the code of community engagement and getting people to not come in and say, nobody told me.
Right.
So we've done a lot of work in that. We're
Right.
adding a communication person coming
Right.
forward,
Right.
adding another way. So I think it's a progressive piece of just learning how to do all of this. And it's actually a nice narrative to say, we hear you. Here's some things that we're thinking about doing.
Well, and it also really gives more people in the community an opportunity to see the talent that we have within the departments.
Well, and again, and I do want to say this, and I'll say this Monday as well. We have a lot of very hardworking people that work
Absolutely.
for our town and do this work.
Yeah.
And to come into a meeting and be challenged on levels of things that are difficult. Part of that goes with the job, but part of it really should need to be there. So I think we can find ways to get ahead of this a little bit more. That's a good idea. So that's just my thoughts on that. Do we have anything else we need to?
So just comments on the reports.
Oh, right. So the report that, Becky, I think you probably got this. Eli, I have your comments. I have yours.
Yep.
Nothing. If you wanted to spend a few minutes and look at it, or just send me a note tonight on the letter. It's a very rough draft.
When would it come in? Fun looking.
It was on Greg's email,
Greg's email to me about the
one of the attachments.
attachments on the budget.
Oh, there. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Just when you have, if you take a look at it later, just send me some notes. I'm gonna work on it tonight and tomorrow morning. I'll get it back to you. When's
Is that on
So we need it tomorrow.
I can do it. What
Okay.
time do you need it?
Do we have by noon?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll get it to you by noon. Anything you have, just send it to me.
Okay. And that's regarding the
The annual
Annual
report.
report, it's the
Yeah,
board of
right.
selectmen.
Yeah.
great there. Thank
And I
you.
do have a draft of Google version. Is it better to do electronically to people? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you can
Of
send
If
it
you
which-
have an extra one, I'd love to look at that.
Sure.
Paper copy.
I'll just send it electronically.
I'll do both.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm better electronically.
Yep.
I'll just look this over. I'll do it electronically also, but then I'll get back
All
to you.
right, so goal is by noon, other comments, and
We'll go home and
obviously
look at it
we have-
tonight.
All right, anything else? Happy points?
This, the Bion Pike is talking at the historical at the museum about the history of,
On the harbor.
so I don't know if anybody, anyway, I don't know the exact date, cause I walked in the door, saw the flyer and walked back out. But,
Yeah, that's right, that is, might
Yeah.
be this weekend.
the history of the harbor, oh, that might be interesting.
Yeah. I meant to put that in my calendar, I forgot to.
All right, good, well, hey, this is a record. Gone through a budget in an hour, we got things done, that's awesome, okay. All right, unless there's anything else, any public comment, anything you want to share, question wise? Oh, yeah. Right, it's never gonna happen.
There will be.
Yeah.
Lots of iterations, reiterations. And I hope that the documents that guardrails be put in just because it stands right now that we talk on
Oh, yeah.
quality of work.
I
Again,
tried
I'm
to- I'm saying-
glad we can happen.
Yeah,
Thank you.
a little spell checking goes a long way,
Yeah, it just popped out at me.
absolutely,
I wanted
Thank
to make
you.
sure that didn't end up in the final thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, when you look at something for so long, you don't see it anymore. It's out there. Thank you, great. All right, well, thank you for coming and your comments, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.